Tonight, Canadians trapped in Haiti trying to find a way out. A nation rocked by violent political unrest and foreigners now desperate for help. Canada's ambassador to the UN now preparing for an emergency meeting.
There's looting, there's killings, there's more kidnappings.
Hollywood's big night. The stars making their mark at this year's Oscars.
Welcome to the 96th Oscars, everybody.
With lots of Canadian talent shining in the spotlight. Plus the balloon act that's blowing up on social media.
It's wild, but I'm stoked.
The viral videos creating a new media star and bringing joy to millions.
CTV National News with Heather Butts. Reporting tonight, John Ehrlichman.
Good evening. We begin tonight with the growing violence in Haiti. The country is under a state of emergency, and Caribbean leaders are calling for support from their allies, including Canada. With gangs attempting to topple the government, many foreigners are desperate to find a way out. CTV's Jeremy Sharon has more on the chaos and the Canadians stuck in the middle of it.
Gunfire on the streets of Port-au-Prince. Haitians take cover amid growing clashes between gangs and police. For a few weeks, the country has not been governed. There is no authority, this man says. The airport shut down for days now under frequent fire.
I can hear the shots, but there's nothing whistling overhead, so I know they're not shooting in our direction. But it's, well, I wouldn't say stressful, it's worrying.
For this Canadian caught in the middle of it, there is no escape. Desperate for a way out, David Rocheleau has been unable to get a flight out for a week now.
Right now, the bandits they're just shooting up the airport every once in a while to keep it shut down.
Rocheleau is here to help train farmers, a project years in the making. Now he's sheltering away from the chaos with no clear way out.
For the moment, we're fine. It's if we have to go to the grocery store, get some supplies, then we're screwed. Or, you know, there's more information that gets out. We could be kidnapped while we're going down there or coming back.
On the ground, gangs launched attacks on police stations today. If Ariel Henry doesn't step down, the country will suffer a genocide, says this gang leader. The embattled prime minister has been forced to stay out of his country for safety reasons.
What we have seen over the last few days or week is unusual in the sense that the gang, who were usually controlling their respective territories, have started to unite and target some of the key infrastructures.
The Canadian embassy has closed to the public, and U.S. officials have airlifted non-essential personnel from their embassy.
Caribbean leaders have called an emergency meeting in Jamaica tomorrow to discuss the situation. Canada's ambassador to the United Nations, Bob Ray, is expected to attend. John?
All right, thanks, Jeremy. Now to a quiet suburb of Ottawa where residents are still in shock after a mass stabbing this week. Today, community members came out to help raise much-needed money and to pay their respects. Here's CTV's Natalie Van Roy.
4 days after the worst mass killing in Ottawa's history, Kenneth Desonic had a moment of silence here with his parents.
There are lots of people that love them. That is just really sad, considering that we are from Sri Lanka.
You're from Sri Lanka?
Yep, me and my family are from Sri Lanka, and it's sad hearing someone else pass away.
As the investigation continues, fundraising efforts are underway to help with the funeral.
It's not one body that we're talking about, it is about 6 bodies, so there's quite a bit of expenses.
The surviving father is allowing the local temple to arrange a funeral after autopsies are completed.
2 family members of the father is also waiting to come to Canada, so that after that we are going to decide when to do the funeral service.
The financial support will be coordinated through the Buddhist Congress of Canada on Heron Road. The Buddhist Congress of Canada also accepting donations. Investigators remain parked outside the Barrhaven townhome where the 6 people were murdered Wednesday night, including 4 children. The day after a candlelight vigil was held in this Barrhaven park, only steps away from the crime scene, flowers, candles, and cards remain. Sign of a community supporting the victims and grieving in their own way.
Just broke my heart. What happened in Ottawa shouldn't have happened at all. It's inhumane what this family did for that kid, and whatever the reasons behind this should have never happened.
The victims, 5 members of the Rikwamasinger family, a mother and her 4 children, the youngest 2.5 months old, also killed a family acquaintance.
May their soul rest in peace, and I pray for the father to recover fully and, do his best to carry on with his life.
He's in hospital recovering. Natalie Van Roy, CTV News.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has responded to a weekend warning from U.S. President Joe Biden. In an interview on Saturday, Biden said an invasion of the city of Rafah represents a red line for the Israeli military operation in Gaza. Netanyahu said in his own interview today, his priority is to prevent another terror attack like October 7th. Today, some survivors from those attacks spoke at a Montreal march calling for the return of hostages. Here's CTV's Olivia O'Malley.
Bring them home! For 8 weeks, this group has been marching for hostages they have never met. But today, these Montrealers got the opportunity to meet survivors from the October 7th attack.
They are like my brothers, sisters. It's horrible.
The 4 Israelis were greeted with a standing ovation. They've been in Montreal for a few days, sharing their stories at synagogues and now at the Sylvan Adams YMYWHA. 3 survivors said they hid in safe rooms in their kibbutz for hours. The 4th recounted his experience at the Nova Music Festival. He said he hid in a small room with 20 other people while they listened to the attackers outside.
We heard the rifle touch the door, and then he shot.
Each story gripped a crowd of around 150 people, moving many to tears.
He told me, listen, all of my family are dead.
When you hurt them, there is no hard feelings. They just want some peace. They just want to be back at home. They don't want a war.
Organizers hope the stories will inspire demonstrators to carry on the weekly march.
The resilience of these survivors in overcoming the obstacles and the hateful acts perpetrated against them by the terrorists is going to be enough to lift everyone up.
Participants say gatherings like this one are almost like a form of community therapy.
This is a way to remind our Jewish community, and I'm not Jewish myself, but it's a way to remind our Jewish community that people stand with them and stand with them proudly.
The group says it will continue to march until all the hostages are freed from captivity.
It's the least I can do to show my support and come every Sunday until everyone is home.
Olivia O'Malley, CTV News, Montreal.
And tonight, Pope Francis is facing criticism from Ukraine and its allies for suggesting Kyiv should have the, quote, courage of the white flag to end the war with Russia. The remarks made during an interview in Vatican City have been interpreted by many as a suggestion that Ukraine should surrender. Ukraine's foreign minister among those to issue a strong rebuke, saying, "Our flag is a yellow and blue one. We shall never raise any other flags." A spokesperson for the Vatican quickly attempted to walk back the remarks, saying the Pope was calling for a ceasefire and negotiation. A driver who crashed a car into the gates of one of the world's most famous landmarks has been arrested. A makeshift fence of wooden planks and scaffolding now stands at the front of Buckingham Palace, while metal fencing surrounds the entrance. Police are tonight investigating the incident, but say it's not terror-related. Canadians are set to see another hike to the federal carbon tax next month. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has promised to remove the tax if elected, and today he rallied his supporters around that message. CTV's Sean Leathong has the details.
Bring it home! Bring it home!
Greeted with cheers from thousands of supporters at the Toronto Congress Centre, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre held a rally taking aim at the carbon tax.
Axe the tax! axe the tax.
Specifically at a planned rise in the carbon tax that will take effect April 1st.
April 1st, April Fool's Day, and with Justin Trudeau and the NDP, the joke is on you.
When talking about the carbon tax, Polliev delivering his message, trying to frame how it would affect everyday Canadians.
For the single mom who's trying to take her kids to sports and to school in the morning, who has to drive herself to work, she has no choice. There isn't an electrified train to take her. She can't ride her bicycle 40 kilometers every single day to get to the restaurant where she serves her customers. She will be paying higher direct costs.
The room was certainly loud, having an upbeat attitude, something supporters like 26-year-old Tyler Boucherit said.
It feels electric, it feels exciting. You know, this is my first time going to a political rally.
During his speech, Polliev also took aim at car thefts and what he called liberal journalists in the CBC, with many offering what they see as an appeal from the Conservative leader.
He's one of us. He represents people that are working class.
I think he relates to common people. I think he's very likable and straightforward.
He understands the everyday person, and he cares.
Polliev often joking with the crowd as he was calling on supporters to become involved.
Politics is not a spectator sport. It is a participation sport. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So you need to be at the table.
While polling shows the Conservatives in a national lead, there are no plans for an election anytime soon, but the Conservative leader seems to be generating momentum.
Shantley Thong, CTV News, Toronto.
And joining us with more perspective is CTV News pollster Nick Nanos. Nick, what do the polls tell us about how Canadians feel about the carbon tax?
Well, it's very divisive. You know, it's interesting. In research that we've done, it suggests that, you know, about half of Canadians think that the carbon tax is important to protect the environment in the long term, but a significant 40% are worried about keeping costs down. It speaks to the fixation right now in terms of worry about the economy, worry about rising housing, and worry about the rising cost of living.
I wanted to dive deeper into that. What do the numbers tell us about how Canadians are feeling about the economy overall?
Well, you know, the thing is that we track consumer confidence every week. Canadians are about almost 3 times more likely to think that the economy will get weaker rather than stronger in the next 6 months. It speaks to the level of pessimism that's out there, where people are worried about the economy and they're worried about their jobs. And as a result, it just speaks to a very high level of anxiety.
Meanwhile, Nick, for those curious about when we will see a federal election, what's your current assessment?
Well, I think the window is starting open for a federal election. It could be as late as 2025, but I think realistically, the earliest window is probably the fall of 2024. It could be as soon as 6 months away. So anything can happen in terms of the House of Commons, but that's probably everyone's best guess right now.
Okay, so lots to watch on that front. Nick, thanks very much. Coming up, a ban bill gains steam. Is time up for TikTok in the U.S.? Plus,
24 hours, it got like 1 million views or something.
Meet the social media star making waves and sparking curiosity. A triple threat of heavy rain, snow, and tornadoes slammed the U.S. East Coast. Millions are cleaning up from a severe storm. A 20-year-old died in icy conditions in New Hampshire. 2 hours away, homes were submerged. Charleston, South Carolina, also hit hard by the deluge.
It's locked up. Is it even neutral?
Drivers were left stranded, relying on help from others. Some appeared to be braving rough seas instead of city streets. In Alabama and southeast Georgia, parts of homes were ripped to shreds. In Washington, lawmakers are expected to vote this week on a bill that would force TikTok's Chinese owners to sell the popular video app or risk having it removed entirely from app stores. Political tensions tied to TikTok have been on the rise, including here in Canada. Joining us with more is Canadian cybersecurity expert Ivan Serini, who recently testified in Washington in front of a House committee examining these issues. Ivan, why is TikTok under so much scrutiny?
Yeah. Thanks, John. Well, as I told to the Congressional House Committee, the reason why we should be concerned about TikTok is that because it collects a lot of user data, even on people who never use TikTok app in their lives. And that data was already used for spying, like in the exposed case with the journalists, spying on journalists, and can be also used for many other nefarious reasons, such as, including interference in elections, illegal surveillance, brainwashing, and so much more.
Okay, and how would a sale of TikTok tackle those issues?
Well, it would be a step in the right direction. It would definitely solve at least the governance problem. What that is that by Chinese law, all companies are required to share information with the Communist Party or any government agencies there. So if TikTok is transferred to a US company, that would presumably be solved. It wouldn't solve all the problems because there would still be possibly people who still have access to the user data and are placed in mainland China or somewhere else with the access to the data.
Meanwhile, how do you think the efforts in the U.S. will influence Canada's approach going forward?
Well, John, CIS has already declared and said that Canada is a high priority target for Chinese interference, right? So if TikTok is sold in that case, it can solve some of the problems that Canada can be exposed to, but also TikTok by itself, to be honest, is just the tip of an iceberg. The real problem is the big Chinese tech that is collecting data on Canadians, Americans, and everyone else. But definitely it is a step in the right direction that Canada should be learning from the U.S.
Cybersecurity expert Ivan Serini, thanks very much. Still ahead, a night of stargazing. We bring you the winners and losers of the Oscars. The most watched stargazing event of the year has tonight unfolded in Hollywood. And once again, the Oscars delivered some big wins and surprise losses. Robert Downey Jr. took home his first ever Academy Award, beating out Canadian Ryan Gosling to claim Best Supporting Actor for his role in Oppenheimer.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks. I'd like to thank my terrible childhood and the Academy in that order.
The first Canadian win of the night came from Ben Proudfoot, who won Best Documentary Short Film for The Last Repair Shop. For more, here's CTV's Kamal Karamali on how the day unfolded.
It was the year of Barbenheimer.
And welcome to the 96th Oscars, everybody.
And tonight, the tune no different at the 96th Academy Awards.
I'm just happy that we can finally put this Barbenheimer rivalry behind us.
Oppenheimer coming into the night with the most nominations, while the year's biggest box office hit, Barbie, also grabbed a lot of attention on the red carpet. The brilliantly bizarre Poor Things and Killers of the Flower Moon starting the night with multiple nods. The actors from the four films combined striking a large presence at the Dolby Theater in Los Angeles. But it was the behind-the-scenes crews honored for standing side by side with the picketers during the Hollywood strike. And standing in solidarity with Palestinians, a massive protest taking place outside the Oscars.
While some people are celebrating and pretending like nothing is happening, the Oscars are happening down the road while people are being murdered, killed, bombed.
The conflict at the heart of this acceptance speech.
Whether the victims of October the 7th in Israel or the ongoing attack on Gaza, all are victims of this dehumanization.
And a rare cultural showcase of Native Americans at the Oscars, a performance by Osage Nation dancers, the tribe at the heart of the Killers of the Flower Moon film.
So why then
do we admire Ryan Gosling's Ken so much?
Canadians also displaying some pride tonight. A big showing with the red leaf all over the red carpet. Ryan Gosling came up short for Best Supporting Actor. Canadian Celine Song's debut film, Past Lives, was up for Best Picture and nominated for Best Original Screenplay. And Halifax's Ben Proudfoot winning his second Oscar for the Best Documentary Short Film category. And with the night behind us, the buzz now around next year's Academy Awards, with Dune 2 now in theaters, already picking up steam. John.
Okay, some buzz to watch. Thanks, Kamel. Canadian-born baseball player Joey Votto has high hopes of keeping his major league career alive. Today, some visual proof of his early attachment to the Toronto Blue Jays. Votto posted this baby pic online, sporting a Blue Jays bib. Votto signed with his hometown team. The 40-year-old still fighting for a roster spot. After the break, ballooning in popularity.
My message is to, share gratitude, positivity, and love.
A clever creation generating a ton of pop on social media. We leave you tonight with a story about turning a creative hobby into a new career, with posts blowing up on social media. CTV's Adam Sawaski has more on the BC man who's betting big on balloons.
Before David Beck discovered the positive potential of filling a balloon full of water, he was striving to be a full-time travel photographer, taking photos like these.
It's kind of my big dream. I was working hard.
But then the pandemic hit harder, and David lost both his photography gigs and the bartending job that was paying the bills.
I was definitely under, a lot of stress.
David says his mental health started suffering, so he began searching for some way to take his mind off it all.
Obviously, you're looking for a positive place to put your energy.
And obviously, if you have a lot of time on your hands with nothing to lose, why not pop a balloon with an axe and capture the action on camera? But far from obvious was what happened after David posted the video on social media.
The first kind of 24 hours, it got like 1 million views or something.
It eventually reached more than 200 million views, David says.
I was freaking out.
So he wondered what would happen if he made a bunch of other videos.
Throw spaghetti at the wall and it sticks.
You keep going.
Maybe I just think right place at the right time.
Yet, 3.5 years later, during this very different time,
they have skyrocketed.
Thanks to producing countless thousands of daily balloon videos, David's earned 20 million followers on social media, up to more than 500 million views per video, and turned this into a full-time job.
It's wild, but I'm stoked.
David says he also couldn't be more grateful for the opportunity to focus his seemingly superficial content on more substantial issues, ranging from the war in Ukraine to videos specifically aimed at calming anxiety and distracting from depression.
My message is to, share gratitude, positivity, and love.
And to show how the worst days of our lives, if we choose to respond differently, just might inspire us to realize the best.
When life's calling on you, right, you got to respond and you got to do, what you can to keep going, right?
Adam Sawatsky, CTV News, Central Saanich.
That's it for us tonight. I'm John Ehrlichman. For Heather and all of us at CTV National News, thanks for watching. Good night.